Hello students, welcome to my 10 minutes math channel. This is teacher Brenda here, and today we would look into year 5 mathematics, the topic of money, part 3, and that is how to calculate simple and compound interest. Okay, so let's have a look on how are you going to learn to calculate simple interest. Okay, simple interest needs three things. First of all, you would need something called the interest rate. Okay, and then there is something called the principal and the number of years. Okay, so the interest rate is usually expressed as a percentage, 2%, 3%, 10%. So this is given to us, or the information, okay, and then you have the principal that is usually in denominations. Okay, how much? 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, whatever the amount of money. Number of years is how long you choose to invest, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and you use the alphabet N, okay, to represent that. So to calculate a simple interest, all you need to do is take your interest rate, multiply it with the principal, and multiply it with how many years you are going to invest your money. Okay, so let's clear this and let's look at two situations here, two scenarios. Scenario 1, interest rate is 5%, principal is 10,000 ringgit, time duration is 1 year. Scenario 2, interest rate is 5%, principal is still 10,000, same. However, time duration is now 3 years. So calculate simple interest. So how do I calculate my simple interest? It's easy. All you need to do is take your interest multiplied by principal times the number of years. So interest is 5%. So you write that as 5 over 100 multiplied by 10,000, which is RM, 10,000, and multiplied by 1 year. So it's 1 times 1. Okay, over here, 2 zeros at the bottom, 2 zeros on top. So over here, 100 times 5. So 100 times 5, so 5 times 100 times 1 still gives you 500. So which means after 1 year, this is called the interest amount. Okay, how much is the interest? So after 1 year, your money, your 10,000 would have now become 10,500. You add the interest part. So if I were to show it in diagram, this is your 10,000, okay, all right. And if you kept that money 1 year under this agreement, it would have grown another 500 and it would now become 10,500 total money that you would have at the end of the year. Remember, this is called the interest portion, okay. Now let's look at scenario 2, where the interest is the same, principal is the same, but however, the duration is times 3. For 3 years, you kept your money. So what is your interest? Your simple interest is this. Again, it's 5%, which is 5 over 100, multiplied by 10,000. So you have your ringgit over there, 10,000 ringgit, and multiplied by 3 years, which means your RM 500 now, instead of multiplying by 1, you would have to multiply with 3. And that would give you 1,500. Very simple. That's why you call it simple interest. If 1 year was 1,000, 3 years is 1,500. Now, this simple interest calculation can exist for anything. If you want to go and take a car loan, this is how they calculate your simple interest. Or if you just want to go and put your money in the bank every year and get a simple interest out of it in fixed deposits, every year you go, you can take out. Let's say you go and put your money in fixed deposit. Okay, you have learned about fixed deposit in the previous lesson. So you go, you take your 10,000 and you put. So year 1, end of the year, you go to the bank and you would have 500 extra. You can withdraw. You can withdraw that 500. And the following year, your 10,000 is still in the bank. The bank will give you another 500. And then you go to the bank the second year and you take out your money. You still have 10,000 in the bank. And for the third year, the bank would still give you another 500. So all your 500, 500, 500, if you added it up in 3 years, you would have 1,500. That is simple interest. Okay, so now we clear the drawing and we move on to something called compound interest. Now, this is a very important strategy or actually calculation that can actually make you a millionaire. Okay, if you know how compound interest works, you can really make use of it because compound interest uses time duration and the interest portion. This is what plays a big part in compound interest. Now, let me just go back to the situation here. Over here, our interest rate is still 5%, just like the earlier situation, okay? And our principal is still 10,000. But what happens in a compound interest, okay? Let's say in year one, okay, you put in your 10,000. Okay, your 10,000 is here. At the end of the year, with a 5% interest, you would get 500. So this was our earlier situation or scenario for simple interest. In a compound interest story, you do not take out this 500. Okay, you do not take it out and you don't go and spend that money. Instead, in the second year, okay, that's why I say time is important. In the second year, your interest is added together with your principal, okay, and you get a new principal in year 2, which is 10,500. You see that? This 500 is your interest from the previous year. And now you will have another calculation. You will have 5% of 10,500. So you see here, now your principal has grown. It has now become 500. Here in the compound interest story, you do not go and take out your interest. You instead keep it back. You dump it back again and again and again and again. And what you will have at the end of the time period is you will have a lot of money. Okay, that's what you'll have. All right, let's look at some real calculations. Okay, how do you do this with numbers? Okay, so here we have a chart, a table here, okay, and let's do this. How to calculate compound interest? Okay, over here, I have the years. I'm going to change this to dark blue. Okay, I have the years. The principal at the beginning of the year, that was 10,000. My interest rate is 5%. So what is my interest? So to calculate that, you take 5%, okay, times with 10,000. Remember, this is just the first year. So it's almost like the same calculation, like a simple, the same calculation for simple interest, okay? So here we have 10,000, okay? So now when you do this calculation over here, you have 2 zeros cut, 2 zeros cut, so you have 500, okay? So I'm going to put the ringgit symbol up here so that everything that I write here is ringgit, okay? So 500 is my interest. Now, what is the value of my principal plus the interest? That means end of the 1 year, how much money would I have? So you have to take your 10,000 and add with your interest, you would get 10,500. Understood? Again, I put my RM here, so which means everything is in RM, okay? Now, this money, I don't take out my interest and I transfer it right to my principal in my second year. So I'm going to tell the bank now. Now, you don't even have to tell the bank. If you say them, you're going to compound it every year, they will know. They will put it back automatically in. So now you have 10,500. And depending on the bank, this could still be 5%. Okay, assuming it's still 5%. So you have to do the calculation now. 5 over 100. Of course, if you have a calculator, makes life easier. But for you at the moment, you still have to do it manually. Multiplied by 10,500. So you see, your principal is no more 10,000, but your principal is now 10,500. So cut 2 zeros, cut 2 zeros. Now you will have 105 times 5, which is 525. How did I do this mental maths? 100 times 5 is 500. 5 times 5 is 25. Okay. So now you see the first year's interest was 500. But my second year's interest is no more 500, but it is 525. This is the part, that extra that you get because you have compounded your interest. You have put it in, you didn't take it out. Okay. So now how much money you would have at the end of the year? Remember, beginning you had 10,500. Okay. All right, you had 10,500 and your interest now is 525. Okay, it's not 500, it's 525. So how much money would you have end of the second year? You would have 5 and then over here 2, 5 plus 5, 0, 10 and then okay. You would have now 11,025 ringgit. Very good. Now you don't take out any of this money and you put everything in to the third year. You put 11,025. This is now my principal for my third year. Interest rate is still 5%. Okay. Wow, this is going to be a tough calculation. So let's try 5 over 100 to calculate how much is the interest multiplied by 11,025. Now, this requires some sort of calculation. So, how are we going to do this? Well, actually, it's not that difficult. 11,025 divided by 100, if you move the 2 decimal points, it's going to become $110.25. All you need to do is take $110.25, that is this divided by 100 and multiply it by 5. Okay, so over here, 5 times 5, 25. 5 times 2, 10. 10 plus 2, 12. So here, carry up your 1. Don't forget your decimal. 5 times 0, 0. 0 plus 1, 1. 5 times 1, 5. 5 times 1, 5. Done. You see that? So divide by 100, move the decimal. That gives you 110 ringgit 25 cents and then multiply by 5. Do a simple multiplication. So over here, your interest rate now is 551 ringgit and 25 cents. Much more than 525. So now in your third year, the end of the third year, how much money would you have? You would have 11,025. Okay, 11,025. That was your principal. Plus with 551 ringgit and 25 cents. Remember, there is a cent part here, which is 0. Add it. So 25 cents, okay. And then 5 plus 1, 6. 2 plus 5, 7. This is 5 and this is 11. So altogether, you would have 11,576 ringgit and 25 cents. Let's do a simple comparison, okay? In our third chart, okay, here I have a little comparison. I'm going to erase all these calculations, okay, and show you what's the difference between simple interest and compound interest. Remember, in our case here, the principal was the same. We still worked with 10,000, okay? And our interest rate was also the same, which was 5%. So now, in the simple interest calculation, your interest after 1 year was 500. The interest after the second year was also 500. The interest after the third year was also 500. So if you add it all up, the 3 years interest plus that 10,000 that you had put, this would just be 11,500. Okay, compare it with this. This was your interest of 3 years using compound interest. Can you see the 76 ringgit 25 cents? Now tell me, who is going to give you 76 ringgit 25 cents free of charge? Nobody. But compound interest can do that. You see that? So instead of keeping your money in simple interest, compound interest will create. And trust me, this was just 3 years. In 30 years, if you did this, you're probably a millionaire. Okay, in 30 years, the graph for the compound interest will hike like this. So in the beginning, it may be little, but your interest will keep on growing. It will be interest on top of interest on top of interest. And this is also the exact method how credit cards can actually kill you, because you get to pay interest on interest, interest on top of interest. So compound it in a good way, you become rich. If you don't know how this works, then you are going to be a victim of credit cards. Okay, so they are using this compounded interest because they charge you interest, they make you pay the minimum, then the next month they charge you interest on the interest or late payment or whatever. You just gets doubled up. You will notice that your debt goes up so fast when you have compounded interest as your debt. So be careful. All right, that's all for financial mathematics. Money, this is part 3. So stay tuned for part 4. Okay, bye-bye.